I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast episode number 116. This one's with Josh Shorey, and we talk about art. I think the original intent was for he and I to have a debate about art, but it ended up more talking about his journey to get where he is right now. There are tons of dangling threads in this, tons of phones left off the hook, and I think he was kind of disappointed that we didn't come to some kind of conclusion in the end, but I don't know that there was a conclusion to come to. I'm happy for him to come back on and we can discuss it again. Spoiler alert, we did not end up getting in a fight, which I had predicted. He did not walk off in anger, and I did not shut off the podcast at any point. But if you'd like to follow along with what Josh is doing, you can go to his website at bapodesign.com, BAPODESIGN.com. Make sure you also follow him on Instagram, Facebook, both those at or / Bapo Design. Make sure to tell him Ramblin' Man sent you. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Though they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode.
Have you ever met Rebob from Borderland Tees?
I do know Bob, but he is so quiet.
Is he
shy? Yeah,
got a couple beers in him.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Jason Kander is a guy who was in the military. He was a Marine.
Yep.
Served in Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Yep.
Then he ran for office in Missouri as a state senator. He's one of my political heroes.
Huh.
He came to be known because he blindfold broke down a gun and reassembled it while talking about gun reform.
Interesting.
And I've read his book.
Huh.
He ended up he was going to run for mayor of St. Louis and then dropped out because PTSD finally hit him. And he couldn't do it. Mm-hmm. And he has a wife and a kid, and he's awesome. There's a podcast called Majority 54 where it's convincing 54% of the country who didn't vote progressive in 2016 talking to the people who voted progressive on how they can talk to people who are more Trumpian in nature. And it's a good podcast because they go after, because a lot of people who are on the right, if you actually made them break down what they believed in, they would be on the technically left, air quotes.
Right.
So
strange times we find ourselves in.
So I reached out to him, shooting my shot, because there's a local guy. He's been on his podcast a couple times.
Yep.
That guy and I don't really talk anymore, so I can't really reach out to him. But I sent him a message on Twitter. His website doesn't work. I'm going to have to send him a message on Instagram, I guess, next. I'll be like, I don't know how to contact you.
Yeah.
Like, if you had a manager or something, I would gladly. Another one is an artist named Rob Sheridan, who was the artistic director for Nine Inch Nails for like 15
Cool.
years.
Wow.
That he did everything. That he is my dream of. I would love to find a band that they're like, anything that comes to art, that's on you. Video, art, any of that, that's on you.
Yeah.
We don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Like, that's my dream gig.
Cool.
So those are the two people that I've reached out to that would be great gets.
Yeah.
But also would probably be 20-minute podcasts that would stress me the fuck out.
Right. You'd have to like be really ready for it
Yeah.
and kind of, have your questions lined up and do your research. And how was it having that graphic design guy on?
Draplin?
Mm-hmm.
God loved Draplin. But there were two things. We talked about politics too much.
Yep.
And he asked me about me.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like, I've known you forever. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
Like how you got started. I was like, fuck, I don't want to talk about this for the next 35 minutes. But that's... And then I tried to get him to talk into art and stuff, and it was just... It was not the kind of interview I wanted to have with him.
Right. Right.
And that sucks. Because
Yeah.
that was a one and done.
Yeah.
I knew once I shot my shot with... Even though I've known him forever, once I shot my shot with him, this was a one-time opportunity.
Right.
So... Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. It always gets a lot of hits on YouTube because, of course, it does because
Right.
it's his name.
Right.
There's some other bigger designers and stuff that I know. One guy I had on the radio show, he's like, I don't talk about my personal life. Okay, never mind. I don't want to talk to you because I want to know what your mom and dad did. Like,
Right.
I want to know what got you here, and he won't do it. It's like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I don't give a shit what you think about design, man. I really don't care. Okay, so in that vein,
All right.
some of these questions I already know the answer to,
Okay.
but I'm going to ask them anyway because
Okay.
I do. The 12 listeners I do have.
Yeah.
I want to know where are you originally from?
I was born in Blue Hill, Maine. And I lived up in Presque Isle, Maine, which is all the way up in the north, right next to Canada.
Okay.
Yep. It's actually Canada in 3 directions and the ocean if you go south.
So it's like a thumb.
Yeah.
It's surrounded by Canada.
Yeah, there's a little part of Maine that pokes up
Okay.
into Canada. Yep.
Was there a way into Canada from there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a border crossing right nearby.
Pretty easy.
Yep. People went back and forth, pretty simple back in those days.
Okay.
Yep.
I wonder how that is now.
Not the same. Some of the 9/11 hijackers came in through that town actually.
Okay.
Yeah, drove right down Interstate 95 out of Maine.
Have I told you? So I've only been outside the country one time,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Detroit to Canada.
Okay,
And I looked at my
it's
phone.
not far.
I went to Sprint. And I was like, can I still have the signal in Canada? Which, I don't know. Some of these are dumb questions. I get it. And it said, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
So I got over the border. No signal.
No signal.
It's like, fuck. Okay. I'm pretty good at navigating, but I
Yeah.
only have 3 hours, and I don't want to get lost and then get stuck.
Uh-huh.
So I went, and they profiled me. When I went across the border, they were like, Tennessee, huh? I was like, yeah. Do you have a gun in this car? No. Do you have a gun? No. Do you have a gun back home? No.
Wow.
Like, what the fuck? Okay.
Yeah.
And same thing happened when I came back into Detroit.
Fair question, though.
Yeah. I went to Tim Hortons. I asked if I could spend American dollars.
Yep.
And they were like, yeah, but we'll have to give you Canadian coin. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Didn't even consider... I didn't want to use my credit card because I didn't trust the fraud stuff
Yeah.
on the card.
Yep.
And they made fun of me for getting a black coffee.
Yep.
And that coffee remained hot for the entire hour that I was like, I don't know what the fuck y'all are doing up here. I'd like to get out of the country more, but I grew up poor. That's
Yeah.
not a very... So Canada,
buddy.
did you go to Canada? a
Never
bit?
as a kid. I guess maybe, there was some kind of like travels out to Nova Scotia, Prince
Okay.
Edward Island, but before I can remember anything. We moved from northern Maine when I was about 6, and then down to Massachusetts. And then my dad's family's all in Maine, so I've been going back there my whole life.
Okay.
And we have a little wood cabin up there that I go to as often as possible.
Ted Kaczynski cabin up there.
Yeah, I go send some letters, some packages.
I get some return information from Tennessee, God. Okay.
Yeah.
What did your folks do?
My dad was a Baptist preacher. He actually just recently retired. Then my mom, she was a school teacher for a while. She helped out with the church, and then for a lot of my adolescence, she was an antiques dealer. So she collected antiques, and so we lived in Massachusetts. We lived in this big 1890 farmhouse that had like a barn behind it, and that barn was just full of antiques growing up.
Did she refurb them or?
Nope, she just kind of bought and resold.
Okay.
Yep. And my grandfather was also kind of a collector, so that's in the family. I think that's where I kind of got my taste for, refined objects and things that last that for a long time. A lot of those, antiques don't get to be antiques unless they're well made.
No. I've had that discussion with, I didn't explain the chair that's on its side. So my old chair, the butt part started giving way.
Yeah.
I just kept it there just because of aesthetics. And then Sean and Dale had that one at the office, and they were like, this is an old chair. Do you want it? I was like, yeah, I'll take it. What I didn't realize was the arm was a little loose, and the pushing on it too much started weakening the center.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I sat down one morning and it just completely sunk.
I'm guessing you have more chair problems than the average person. You're kind of a big guy, Jody.
But all that to say, my friends who are upholsterers, I talked to them about, like reupholstering stuff with the old chair.
Yep.
And they're like, if you don't have a tie to it and it's not a certain age, get rid of it.
Get rid of it, yeah.
It's not worth
Better
it.
off getting a new chair.
Yeah, because it will cost more than that chair ever cost.
Yep.
So I've left it there to remind me to call the city and get a large garbage pickup. I've got to get rid of that and a bed and a box springs.
Or you need a buddy with a pickup.
I don't want to go to the junk.
Yeah. Okay.
I did that with my HVAC unit, and it took 4 hours, and I got $13.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have 4 hours to do
true.
that. But the city will do it. You just have to call and schedule it. So that's what I have to do. Okay.
Yep. All right.
Antiques.
Yep.
Are you an only kid? Do you have brothers?
Nope. I've got an older brother and a younger sister.
Okay.
Yep. I'm the middle.
Were you all into art as a kid?
Interestingly, all of my siblings kind of maintain some artistic practice, although I can't really draw that back exactly to childhood. I mean, we're all sort of creative and imaginative as kids are.
Okay.
We did a lot of drawing and things like that. I think it wasn't really until, I was working at, I didn't have any interaction with, contemporary art until I was probably 22.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was working for an aerospace manufacturer down in Georgia, job I just kind of fell into. And it was for a big multinational corporation. And they offered tuition reimbursement and, 2 hours off a week or something to go to school. And I signed up and I had some credits. So I got an associate's degree and with them, and then I got that and I could still go to school. So I signed up for the art program at this little state school.
Had you been taking engineering classes or something? How did you get into that?
Oh, no. What, into the aerospace job? Yeah. It's a weird, I was working third shift at the gas station nearest to the facility.
Okay.
And one of the up and up manager types, they were going through a hiring thing, and my shift ended at 7 a.m. And he would come through in the mornings around 6 or 6:30 to get his coffee. And he walked in one morning and he said, I come in every day. I come in here. I know you've been working all night, but you're fresh and alert, and you're on top of things, and you got a lot of energy. I like you, kid. Do you want a job?" And I was like, "Sure." I had no idea who this guy was.
Sure, I make porn out of the back of a van.
I know. I had no idea. He's like, "All right, I got a good job. Bring in a resume tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow morning." I said, "Okay." And I just I didn't have hardly anything for a resume, and yeah, it was a great job actually.
Were you going to school?
No, I started an undergraduate degree in English literature.
Okay.
I don't know. Oh, you go to college. What do I do? Well, I like reading, and I did great on my verbal on my SATs. So,
is that what took you down to Georgia?
That's how I ended up in Georgia. Man, this is a weird. Now that I think of this. I went on a crazy odyssey across the country. I had a health issue, like a cancer scare.
Oh shit!
And my parents were in South Georgia, and it was something about the way somehow I could get covered under their health insurance.
Oh yeah,
or something.
Until you're 26.
Yeah. So I went back there just to find out what was up. Everything was fine, and I'm here in this town. I just picked up the first job I could find at that gas station.
You're a big fan of Kevin Smith's Clerks. So you're like, I work in a gas station doing this.
Yeah, it's terrible. But I will say I've made it a point to be kind and a good customer at gas stations ever since. It's not an easy job, honestly. I've had a lot of terrible jobs. So
my GM when I worked at not to brag, when I worked at Taco Bell when I was in college, he said to me, and I still agree with him. Now it's that government overreach.
Yeah.
He said, I think everyone in high school should have to work fast food or retail or grocery store.
I did all of them.
For at least like a semester or something. Mm-hmm. Because he said that would fundamentally change how we deal with the working class in this country.
I agree.
Oh, yeah, working fast food and seeing how shitty I got treated.
Yeah.
To where when you had somebody who was nice and then you were kind to them in return, made your week.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have a problem with this guy's theory, though.
Okay.
That you got to force everybody to work, because all that would do is that the rich parents would just generate these bespoke jobs for their rich kids
still remember,
to supposedly work at.
I can't remember if this when I was in college or right after college that I found out this loophole that rich parents would do, and that they would move their kids into their own apartment when they were 16.
Okay.
To establish residency on their own to get funding or something.
Interesting.
I was like, you fucking dickheads.
Man, must be nice, though.
Yeah. Okay, so you ended up the cancer thing, or do you go and get checked regularly?
Actually, I just saw my doctor this week.
And everything's good?
Yeah, everything's good. Okay. Everything's good. Yeah.
See, now I know this about you. I'm going to bug the fuck out of you. Because Mom went through breast cancer, and we've got prostate cancer on the male side, so I'm like vigilant about, like Dad, I was like, did you get checked? Yeah. Okay. When are you going back? Like already.
Well, let's keep this podcast interesting. So I was 21, and I had a lump in my testicles.
Okay.
That was very alarming. It was causing me pain.
At that age, I don't know how you would have found it. I mean,
well, let's not make the podcast that interesting.
It's turned into double X, not triple X, double X. Right?
Yep, and I got it checked out, and it turned out it was scar tissue from something that happened like when I was a baby. I had like a hernia basically, and
so my friend he got a hernia in his testicles from vomiting, from food poisoning. But it was like in the late 90s, early 2000s, so he had to wait like a week to get the results back.
Yeah.
And that was fucking terrifying. Even for me, I was just his friends, but I was like, all right, dude, we're going to figure out what we need to do. If I need to take you, whatever we need to do.
Yeah. So this is something that has stuck with me all along from that experience that, like, I don't know, gives me pause.
Yeah.
I found out that I had that lump, and then it started to ache like terribly and give me pain.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, and I was really kind of anxious about it. I got back to Georgia, and I got it checked out, everything, and it was fine, and the pain went away completely. Which means I want
to use the term manifesting here, but it was like you dematerialized your pain.
I mean, or I materialized it, like I somehow like subconsciously generated the pain as a way to motivate me to, move towards a solution. So I don't know. It's kind of a strange, like some kind of game that my mind was playing on me.
Had your parents moved to South Georgia and you were still living in Massachusetts, or you were on a walkabout?
Man, I was all over the place, like from 16 to 20 something. I mean, it was just all over. All
I'm hearing is your mom was a school teacher. This got to be killing her. Like, what the hell, man? You're going to get educated.
Yeah. Well, I ended up getting educated, Yeah, so I ended up in South Georgia. It was crazy, man. I just signed up for this, like, art. That would be cool. I want to learn how to, I can draw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I went to this small state school called Columbus State University in Columbus, Georgia. And while I was there, like a couple of semesters into it, the university directed a huge amount of funding into the arts programs. They put the music, theater, and studio arts all in this brand new downtown facility, like right on the river downtown where the main campus was elsewhere. They brought in all these hotshot professors, like from the best schools, all young people, they're in their 30s mostly, from like RISD, Cranbrook, Alfred.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I just got this amazing education by these really talented, motivated, young, enthusiastic professors. And, it was an amazing experience. And I absolutely latched onto it. I mean, I took it and went with it. I really, really loved my education. It was a kind of a mixed traditional, contemporary. They were still trying to figure out what the mission of the art school was. And of course they had all this new talent in there. But I really learned, like we had darkroom photography.
Okay.
Life drawing and figure drawing, oil painting, technical ceramics, sculpture.
I'm trying to remember my friend Mike Jones, who lives there, Big Mike. He has a design conference there every year, Creative South.
Okay.
And I can't remember if he he may have gone to that college, and you all may have actually been there around the same time.
I was there, I think, when was that? I think I graduated in 2008, something like that.
Okay, he may have, because I think he's a couple years younger than me.
Okay.
So he would have been early 2000s.
Okay. I was late to it, I was in my 20s by the time I went to school. I think that was the other thing, too. I had messed around a lot. I think I was 22, maybe, 23, something like that, when I really, like, I was working at that job, and I actually was at school full-time and work full-time and for a couple of years, and then I got enough, scholarships and savings and everything to finish the last, 2 years of school full-time.
So in your walkabout,
yeah,
is art any, do you ever go to museums?
Oh, yeah.
Ever,
Yeah, I think it was just a strange synthesis. So I was my introduction to art. I mean, I don't know how to say this. I was reading The Grapes of Wrath when I was 15.
Okay.
The power of
Steinbeck and Kerouac, man. That's every high school kid. You're one, or Hemingway.
Yeah.
You're one of those three kids.
Oh, I was all. Yeah, I read all those. Yeah. I was really, really into reading and stories and then what I did in undergrad, in that English literature program that I did, I hung around with a lot of art people and, messed around a little bit. But no, I didn't have any formal training really until I was in my 20s.
Okay.
I also look back to my brother and I built a lot of things when we were kids.
Was your dad real handy?
No, my dad was not real handy, but my parents were kind of hands off and letting us just kind of explore and mess around with stuff.
Were you all, did they, See, that's a hard one up there. Hockey, sports. Was there anything organized that they're like, you got to participate in this?
Well, yeah, I mean, our church. I mean, we were in a really,
Yeah.
really
Well, yeah, Baptist
rigorous,
preacher.
you know, and it was a church with a Christian school combined, and so I was at that
shit.
church, you know, 7 days a week, really.
Okay.
Because you know, my parents were involved with the school, so I'm there for school all day, and of course they work until 5, so I'm there, and then we've got youth group on Wednesdays and whatever, who got to go in on Saturday to
Yeah.
do blah blah blah, and then 2 church services on Sunday. So I was very rigorously involved in that. And then I played sports. I played soccer growing up
Okay.
from an early age. I think about that all the time.
I'm in a different generation. I never think about soccer because soccer was such a way down the totem pole at Fulton
Yeah,
to where they finally had to recruit football players to come and play
play soccer.
And the soccer purists were angry because they were tougher and angrier.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't have that. I mean, there were sports. Okay, so there is a huge population of Portuguese people in the South Shore of Boston. They call it from New Bedford, Massachusetts, the longest bridge in the world, the Braga Bridge,
Okay.
from Portugal to New Bedford.
Okay.
And there are a lot of like technical and agricultural schools and things like that.
Okay.
And I just, there's just tons and tons of soccer culturally. And then I think, in the 90s, really, I was in kind of like a suburb of Boston commuter town
Okay.
where you started to get the prototypical soccer mom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was
Okay.
like kind of middle class,
Okay.
parents and families. It was a big thing.
With your parents being so religious, did they restrict you all on what you could read or see, like movies or books or anything?
Early on, yes, it was like extremely restrictive, and then I mean, we were in like almost like a cult early on.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like we couldn't watch movies, we couldn't go to the movies. It was like all the Baptist stuff, gambling, which included like any game where you rolled dice or anything, that was kind of
Monopoly.
seriously,
Yeah.
yeah. It was intense. It was really, really intense when I was younger, and then my parents, I think, kind of realized that it was a little cuckoo,
Yeah.
and my dad kind of steered us out of that. So by the time I was in high school, I had one really, really good teacher, an English teacher,
Okay.
who kind of, I mean, we were reading Shakespeare like
Yeah.
in high school and really reading it,
Yeah.
and I don't know, that's actually not that
Yeah.
common.
With me, I would read. So when I was in high school, my sister's 11 and a half years younger than me.
Yep.
I took her to school every morning. I picked her up from daycare every day.
Right.
Like I essentially helped raise her.
Yeah.
And I played sports
Yep.
all year round. And I worked. I worked at the ball fields. And yet I would still read like 2 books a week.
Yep.
That's how much I loved reading.
Yeah.
And I got into my senior English class. And it switched from you were in English all year to you were in block scheduling. There were 4 classes,
Right.
classes. And I had English the first semester, and it was a teacher from West. And she was, she was used to parents coming in and shepherding the kids and all this. She came to Fulton and was like, what the fuck is happening? To where she started talking about college. We weren't in honors, but we were in college prep English. And there were some kids in there, and she was like, what do you mean you won't go to college? They were like, I have a kid. I
Yeah.
got to work.
Right.
And she was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And so I got to the last chunk, the last section, whatever it was.
Yep.
And I had like a 35 in that class. And I looked at her.
Out of 100.
Yes. I looked at her. I said, I don't want to be in here next semester. Do you want me to be in here? And she went,
No.
no. I was like, how can we fix this?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, I was like, I love to read. I don't like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Like we would read Shakespeare, and I was like, understand the language is smart. I don't like the language.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was reading Kerouac. I was reading all the Sherlock Holmes. I read like all the Sherlock Holmes in like a week and a half. Like just aggressively reading it, loving it. And she was like, well, maybe if you wrote essays, it's like, done. I was like, how long do I have? And she's like, 3 weeks. It's like, cool. I raised my grade up to a 70. I was literally
Great.
writing essays on the last day.
Yep.
Like scribbling and turn in, scribbling and turn in. And now I think about it, I was like, why do you not just go ahead and give that kid, because you know he can do shit. If he's sitting there writing it and it doesn't have to be edited, it's done.
Right.
And it's a full-page essay on the Scarlet Letter or something. I was like, encourage that kid just because he's not liking what you're wanting him to read.
Yeah.
Encourage that kid, man.
I'm just shocked you didn't get a great education at Fulton High School.
No, so the video I showed you about what we were doing today, it turns out one of the previous years they went to the gun range. I was like, cool, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies was like, I don't understand. We we got to do this. I was like, I went to Fulton. She was like, okay.
Oh, yeah, you're around guns enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a gun within 6 inches of my face on 3 different occasions.
Yeah, that's no good, Jody.
Yeah.
You're going to want to keep those numbers down from here on out.
But what was fucked up is when I went to college and studied design, and there was a point where you could take one elective and it had to be English or math. And I took advanced probability and statistics.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 1997, 98. And the teacher was like, you're taking a math class? It's like, yeah. I was like, because I feel like I need to prove what I'm doing is right, and that's going to be through testing. Mm-hmm. So probability, which now that's everything. And he was like, you're the first student I've ever had who took a math class over an English class. I was like, no, I think this is better for me. And I was the 3rd highest grade in that class. That's what's fucked up. When I went to college, it was all 98, 97, 99. Because it was all people who were like, no, you want to do this, so we're going to encourage you. Mm-hmm. Whereas Fulton, it was just like, I have 30 kids in this class, and it's a fucking struggle.
Right.
Yeah. So, brother and sister, how far of a difference is there?
My brother's 2 years older. My sister is 5 years younger.
Okay.
So my brother and I kind of came up as a unit.
Yeah.
She was a little kind of separate.
She's a baby sister, too, so that's a whole nother thing, too.
Yes. Yep. So we came up together, and honestly, my brother and my dad both have really big personalities, and sometimes I think like the reason I didn't really find my path until I was 22 or something is just, I actually kind of spent a lot of my life just being like, well, what do they do? Okay, I'll do that. You know what I mean? Just kind of middle child, stay out of the way kind of, behavior. So it really wasn't, I don't know, got out of the house and stuff out on my own that I really started to discover, what I was into and who I am and what I'm about.
So at 16, you decide, I'm going to keep on at your walkabout.
Yeah.
Were they scared, hesitant?
Oh, no. I mean, I wasn't out wandering the world. It was like my parents moved to Georgia while I was still in high school. I finished high school in Massachusetts, and then I went to college in Pennsylvania, and I worked in the summers in Maine, and you know what I mean? I was just kind of all over the place.
Did you mainly stay in like rural areas, or did you was Boston or Philly or Pittsburgh ever an option?
Yeah, I guess I was a little bit suburban. I mean, yeah, we lived outside of Boston, and then my parents moved outside of Atlanta. Actually, what's the name of the town that they lived in? It's funny. It's like there's like the fancy rich town next door called Eagles Landing.
Oh.
But we were not in that town. It was off 75.
Okay.
What was it?
Not Macon. Not that far south.
No. It was right outside of Atlanta.
The suburbs.
Yep. And
oh yeah, because the old baseball stadium. I still remember two friends and I went down there to see an entire series of the Braves versus the Dodgers.
Yeah,
because he's a Braves. Him and his wife are Braves fans. I'm a Dodgers fan. There was a point where it's like, well, we should just get a hotel like a mile away, and we can just walk. And somebody's like, no, you don't do that. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yep. No, I didn't spend much time in cities, Jody. So when I was in Pennsylvania, I was in college in like rural Harrisburg, kind of in
Yeah.
the middle of Pennsylvania. A lot of my friends from that time finished school and moved to
Harrisburg,
Philadelphia. So, I would visit people there a lot. Spent a lot of time in Philly in my 20s.
Harrisburg, I'm trying to remember, there's a college there. I think. Maybe I'm thinking of a town in between Harrisburg and
No,
Philly.
we would have to go to like Penn State to go see shows and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it that my buddy Mike Heineman went to a school up there that I think is in that area? Because I passed it and I was like, holy shit, there's that. It was a college that I'd only heard him talk about.
Huh.
And I think it's an art college, kind of.
Nope. Well, I don't know. I went to
Yeah.
a little Christian liberal arts
Okay.
college there that nobody's ever heard of. Yeah.
Well, the people that go there. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
So, okay, I know I'm hammering on art because I know what we're getting to.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first piece, or an artist, or maybe even a piece that you're, an antique that your mom brought home? Something that really kind of like, whoa, it kind of was like a shock to the system, or made you stand up and take notice.
I mean, again,
Or even
like,
at 22, like any point in there. I'd prefer younger, but
I would say probably all of those real kind of sublime experiences that I had of art were like were through reading or film or music,
okay.
and that was great early on, like in church, even growing up, like
Yeah.
there were certain like the hymns and things that we
Yeah.
would sing really got me. They really
Yeah.
I connected with those, and there was that experience of being caught up in something beautiful. Happened with film. It happened with books, as I mentioned before. You're gonna love this. So you're gonna love this / hate it. My first like staggering moment with like a work of like contemporary like art
Was
gallery
a
art.
Nickelback concert. Oh, sorry.
Even better.
Okay.
I was in the Philadelphia Museum of Art.
Yeah.
I walked around a corner.
God, you're gonna kill me.
There was a big painting, and it was just this field of red color.
Rothko?
Yes. And I just stood there in front of that. Like, I know nothing about painting. I know nothing about that. I stood in front of that and like started to like shed tears.
Holy shit.
Yep.
So in that same museum in
Yeah.
2010, 2011, I got into almost a shouting match with my friend Michelle that she and I argue about art all the time.
Yep.
Because we walked past a piece that was of a beautiful like mountain range and water and all that, and she looked at it and she went, ugh. That's like a couch painting. That's something your grandparents would have, which I have on the other side of this wall, the painting that hung above my grandparents' couch. She's like, ugh, it's so terrible. And I was like, you're an idiot. The technical ability that person in 1500 had
Right.
to do that.
Right.
You don't respect that. And she was like, no. I was like, you're an idiot. So then we walk through another few halls and we walk into a room and it's black and white and it's all over the walls and it looks like a 3-year-old did it.
Oh, Cy Twombly.
She's like, this is art. And
Yeah.
I looked at her and said, go fuck yourself. And she was like, you're lucky her boyfriend Jeff is an art teacher in high school. She was like, he loves Cy Twombly. I was like, he can go fuck himself too. I was like, you're out of your fucking mind. You don't respect that, but you think this is genius.
Why can't you just let the Cy Twombly people love Cy Twombly?
I think if she didn't shit on the other piece, I probably wouldn't have had us.
Right. Oh, because
much of a
she put
guttural
you on the
reaction.
defensive. Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
much
okay.
of a guttural reaction.
Yeah.
And this is the argument that she and I have all the time, which is her and my friend Kim, who lives out in California. The two of them are like, Jody points at stuff and says, that's not really art. And my argument is, I don't point at stuff and say that's not art. And here's a big crux of my argument. There are things that I'm going to point at
This photograph.
this photograph, which is by Saul Young.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the problem I have is when I go into a museum and there are 6 paragraphs beside that,
Yeah.
explain to me why that is genius. I was like, That's marketing and PR and criticism.
Right.
That piece is not brilliant. Like, I remember being in the San Francisco... One of the times I almost got in trouble. So I was in the San Francisco Museum. What is that one? Museum of Modern Art, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Museum of Modern Art. And there was a piece. I love Walker Evans, the photographer.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a Walker Evans piece, and right next to it was where this artist had taken a piece of his, went into Walgreens and had a copy made, and it was hanging next to his piece. And you start crying, I start physically shaking. I wanted to rip that thing off the wall and smash it into 1,000 people.
Oh, man.
And I think Joachim and I have had this discussion. He's like, well, then you had a reaction. I was like, I don't think that's the right reaction. I don't think that's just like, I was like, Walker Evans got good at his craft and was able to get that piece. That motherfucker walked into Walgreens.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to say it's a statement on devaluing of art or something, here I'm gonna go down another rabbit hole, because I talk to Sean about this all the time. I was like, Instagram.
Yeah.
I was like, there are pieces on Instagram that 30 years ago would have been on the cover of National Geographic. Like, look at this. Mm-hmm. It captured this thing that nobody's ever captured before from this angle, and now it's like, meh, it's not worth a double tap.
Yeah.
It's almost like a devalue. It's like, if you want to talk about it on that level, I get it.
Yeah.
So that's where I get, because they think everything should just be considered art and you should never critique it or judge it or see any flaw in it. Which is funny, because she shit on the couch painting.
Right.
Whereas I'm like, no, I think some things are bullshit. And I think I struggle with now too, because I look at the art world and you hear people talking more about, well, if I buy this, it'll be worth so much more million next year. I was like, it's not an investment. It's, right. Maybe I have a stronger tie to it being a technical achievement or something that evokes something in somebody less than I'm going to buy this because I think it may be worth money in 5 years.
Right.
That
okay, so you've got the market is an issue, and then the function of the museum or the art space or whatever is an issue.
Because there's a lot of, what's the term? There's a term now, gatekeeping.
Yes.
There's a lot of gatekeeping, because it's like, well, you've got to get in with these right critics, these right art buyers, these right museums. Right. And I think about, to point at Fulton, the poor black kid that I know at Fulton, because I can actually point to this kid because I know this kid. He lives 2 blocks from me, that his mom had him when she was 19.
Right.
He was a talented graphic designer, started going to Pellissippi, got a girl pregnant at 18 or 19, and now he works at fucking Denso. And he's a talented illustrator.
Right.
And he has no safety net. So he's fucked.
Right.
And who knows what art he could have created. So that's where I struggle.
Man.
And I know I just laid 18 different talking points
there. Hold on. So let me think. What can I engage with that with? I'm running into that issue, the gatekeeping issue now, and it's actually, I think it's more of it's like a weird fluid market issue than anyone specifically attempting to be a gatekeeper. Okay. But so I am a person, I've committed my life to my work to creating beauty. I want to create beautiful things.
Yeah.
That people can feel connected to. Because my life has been enriched by the beautiful things that I've encountered, and I want to live in a more and more beautiful world.
Yeah.
And so I can't do everything, but I can do something.
Yeah.
And so I am trying to, put my energy towards the small sphere of influence that I have, which is like creating things of exceptional beauty that I am able to create. And that's kind of how I understand my practice. One of the strange scenarios that I find is that, I don't want to get too weird sounding, but, ultimately my work and what I do, the point of it, the reason that I keep going back to it, it's like this is a spiritual practice for me. This is how I encounter everything that I am, mixed up in all of this. and that's very important to me. And then I run into the problem of like, I've got to constantly exchange these things for money so that I can have the resources to make more things.
Yeah.
And it's a better path for me because of the way that I work to make fewer things of higher and higher quality and to get paid more
Right.
money for each thing. So I'm taking kind of like the boutique route. You can
Right.
also take like the manufacturing route where you make a lot of things and go for volume, right?
I would call what you do the curated
Sure.
route. Yeah.
And so there is a strange thing that I've encountered. I didn't grow up. We had everything we needed materially, but we were middle class, and
Yeah.
money was always a concern. We were it's the spending and managing of money.
Yeah.
And I don't know what wealthy people are like, but it is wealthy people, more and more often who buy things from me, and there is a strange experience where I have to actually price myself into certain markets.
Right.
Meaning, I had a client like I love them. They've purchased a lot of stuff from me, and they've really kept me going at certain times, and that's been great. But I saw their home, and it was like, we don't know what to do with this hallway. And I was like, you should just find some art that you want to hang up there. And they're like, yeah, but that's like $80,000 worth of art. Meaning, when they see a space, they imagine a dollar amount of art going there. Whereas that is not, I don't know what that's like. Meaning,
Yeah. I have shit hanging up that I love.
Yeah.
It brings me joy.
Right. And so when I look at a big wall, I'm like, oh man, that's a lot of like complicated, associating of art that I need to do. So this all makes sense. But what I mean is, they just have an understanding that the things that they want are of a certain price.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is a real strange scenario where the market, meaning like how much is charged for a thing, gives some people a sense of like how good it is and where its value comes from. And that, so in a weird way, I benefit from this bizarre, hyper-inflated art market that was developed in the modern times because it did generate a sense of like there being very expensive and worthwhile art in the world.
Yeah.
So I can't change any of that, but that's just kind of the world that I live in. So, the market thing is a kind of a strange and curious world to negotiate. And then at the same time, it's like I have this whole world of my clients, and then there's my friends and family who like end up with a lot of the things that I make, which, by the way, I brought you something.
Oh, thank you.
Did you see this already?
No. Wait, maybe. Holy shit.
Yeah, take it off. It's just tight.
Okay.
That's a little steel and brass jar that I made for a client. This is one of these kind of custom bespoke fabrication type projects that I do.
Shit.
Yes. They give out really extraordinary New Year's gifts to, 200 of their closest friends every year. And this year's gift was like a gram of hand-picked Kashmiri saffron, which is a delicious spice.
Yeah.
And so they commissioned me to make the containers that those go in.
That's fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's a cool little thing.
So how do you... God damn it. See, now I want to go like 15 different rabbit holes about like... Does art have to... God, I might have to start writing some of these.
Does art have to not function?
Does art have to have a meaning? Oh, no. There are two things for me. Like, does art have to have a meaning, or can it be... Does it have to have the 3 paragraphs, or can it just be like, I keep seeing this in my head, and I have to get it the fuck out of my head? Because I can show you something. I mock something up in Illustrator that I want to paint that I know I'll never be able to sell because I'm not like you.
In what way are you not like me?
Because I don't have credibility. Nobody gives a shit about what I do.
Nobody, I mean, dude, I have...
But I want to get that out of me, and I don't have 3 paragraphs. It's just something I keep seeing in my head.
Jody, I didn't have to do any writing about that project at all.
So I will say, and in that tube right there is the most expensive piece of art I've ever bought, and I borrowed it as a present to myself for this job I have, and I'm going to get it professionally framed to hang up in my office right in front of me so I can know why I'm doing what I do.
What is it?
It's this guy out of Australia that he is like an engineer.
Okay.
And he came up with this system to where he writes code and inserts a micron pen into this thing.
Okay.
And it maps out these patterns.
Mm.
And I don't want to get it out because I'm terrified. I don't almost don't want to touch it.
I'll see it when it's up.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the paragraph that you have to...
But the question I had about this
Yeah.
before we leave this, because it was food related, did you have to do a lot of research on what you could put it in that didn't tarnish the flavor and also locked in the flavor?
Not a lot of research. It's pretty straightforward, but yeah, that's part of it. So
Okay.
like that steel, the body of that is steel and the top is solid brass. The steel has like a food safe oil, hand rubbed oil and wax finish on it that, protects the steel and is food safe and doesn't, let off any gases or anything like that.
Just with it being a spice, like you don't want to lose that.
Right.
Like,
And that's made with there's part of the reason that it was tricky to get that top off is that they send these all over the world to their, oh, cool. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Great.
yeah.
They send them out all over the world and they have to be airtight. So it's got like a rubber gasket
They
set in
got
there.
to be killing you like, did you have to make it so goddamn heavy?
That was,
Although at that point, they don't give a shit. But
no, they don't. They don't. I mean, that's part of it. And I'm really fortunate to have a client who just wants to make it really extraordinary.
Unique. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was part of my kind of, I wanted it to have a surprising quality. Like when I hand it to people, their hand always drops because it's so much heavier. So there's really a fairly large object with a really small pocket in there. And part of the way I think of that is like the sort of density and robustness of the vessel like really strongly contrasts against like the tiny gentle lightness of the thing that goes inside it. Makes it feel that much more delicate and precious.
You did write a paragraph. You didn't write it down. You got it in your head and you just spoke it.
Yeah.
Right there.
Well, but I mean, here's the thing. I don't know if that object is like high art. I don't know. I don't know where I fall with that. But when I hand that to people, they have a reaction to it.
Yeah.
They feel that it's something of some substance and there's a wow to it and it's very clean and precise. And, so hopefully the object has its own impression that it makes. And then if you're interested in it, you can find out more if you want to talk about it. And for me, I got this undergraduate. I remember this, man. I'll never forget this moment. I don't know if this person will ever hear this podcast, but he was my painting and drawing teacher in undergrad. His name is Orion Wirtz, and he was very smart, very quiet.
That's a hell of a name.
He had a great name. Orion Wirtz, and his wife's name is Hannah Israel. I mean, they had these amazing names. I know. So, I mean, really it's Orion, but he's like from Ohio or something. So Orion.
Yeah. Orion.
So Orion, we were doing this, I was doing well in school and in the art program. And so I could get my professor's attention for stuff. Like if I had something that I was working through, they would stop and try to work through it with me. You know what I mean? Like I was putting in the work. And I was telling him look, I did not come up thinking of art the way that a lot of people think about it, and I never learned this this mode of art critique, and I just don't understand what people are doing during these critiques sometimes. I just don't get it. It's not working for me. And he's like, okay, here's what I'm gonna do. We were just standing by a door of the building. He's like, let's go outside. I'm gonna critique this parking lot. And he explained to me, and he like walked through it, and the way he explained it to me was how he likes to work is like an onion peel. There's like layers that you work towards.
okay. Yeah.
And so the outermost layer is like the immediate sensory perceptions of the thing, whatever it is, however you understand it to be. It's a painting, it's a whatever, it's got red, it's got blue, etc. Then you move into the context that it was created in, like this is from the 1900s, this is from yesterday or whatever. And you move into the social context of the thing that it was created in. Then you move into symbolism and form, that you see in the object, and you just sort of you sort of try to move slowly inward, from the most concrete towards the most abstract qualities of whatever it is that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a useful thing. They say like most people, when they go through a museum, they'll look at things for like 5 seconds or something. And he encouraged me. He's like, look, if you will walk in front of any artwork and just count to 20, you will learn things about it that you ignored on first approach. You have your kind of instantaneous, I don't care about that. That's that thing, the colors, that's one of those. And you do sort of like an instant read of things.
Yeah.
And then, if you're effortful, right, you can sit with it and, give it more time and look for more content in a piece of art. So,
Can I give you a stupid analogy?
The Cy Twombly again?
No. Long exposure photo versus a Polaroid.
Right.
Let it, because I try to do that. I don't count to 20 or anything.
Right.
But I'm like, my thought is always, if I see a piece, I'm like, I may never see this again.
Right.
So I want to make sure I get the full picture of this before I move on. Although, when it comes to museums, I will admit that at least 25% of my thoughts the entire time in the museum is, what the fuck is that person doing?
Yeah.
Get the fuck away from me.
Right.
I want to experience this, but you don't understand personal space.
Oh, the other people in the museum.
Yes, the other people.
You're going at the wrong times, clearly.
Yeah.
Weekends.
Sometimes during the week when there's only one other person in there is the worst fucking time. To where I have stopped and looked at the person and said, please go ahead.
Yeah. So we don't have to stand here awkwardly.
Yeah. That's the pleasure of being a larger person.
Yeah.
We went to I'll go ahead and tell them these people because I'm sure they're not listening. I met my friend at Postmodern Spirits. I parked up on the bridge. I walked past Able Trade up there. And sitting out front of Pour were a bunch of douche nozzles taking up the entire thing to where you could not walk through.
Right.
And I just walked up, and a dude has back to me, and I just smacked him on the back a couple times like, hey, buddy, we need to move.
Yeah.
I need to get through. And his friends were like, I was like, hey, man, he didn't acknowledge. And then finally he turned around and saw me, and he moved. But I was just like, what the fuck are you all doing? Like, you don't give a shit about any other. So when I go to museums, there's at least 25% in the back of like, I just want to sit here and experience this and enjoy this. When I saw the original of Christina's World, I cleared the fucking room. It was in a tiny room, and I saw it. I did not realize it was in there, and I looked around. I was like, hey, I'm going to need the room.
Yeah.
And I made everyone leave. And I am not kidding. And I sat there and I cried. And I had about 3 or 4 minutes. And something Pollock had said about that. He was like, that is almost, the original piece is almost more of a sculpture than it is a painting because all the texture, he put so much paint on that it's built up.
Yeah.
And I had a moment and I cried. But I made everyone leave the room.
So that's wonderful. Good for you. I also have a connection to this painting. Okay. I didn't even realize. I've been fixated on that photograph in here.
Photograph?
Yeah. So Andrew Wyeth, American legendary painter.
Yeah.
He had an apprentice who is painting now. His name's Bo Bartlett.
Really?
Bo Bartlett, Columbus, Georgia native.
Oh, shit.
Taught me how to oil paint.
That's amazing.
Yes. So I actually I have some of Andrew Wyeth's tradition in me, and
That's
I
amazing.
feel very fortunate.
So
to
the
have that
difference in
experience.
the 3 paragraphs versus the painting, like Michelle and I talk about this painting a lot. She was like, "That painting's depressing as fuck because I know the story behind that woman." I was like, "I don't see that when I see that. I see the
Yeah.
painting. I see the colors.
Yeah.
I don't feel hope. I don't feel joy. I don't feel sad. I don't feel anything other than what I feel.
Yeah.
Like there's no one thing."
Well, you're so fortunate to have that experience, Jody. That's really great. I'm seriously.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic.
I'm not being sarcastic. I
Yeah.
mean it. I mean that's a transformative. That's a rare experience. That's wonderful.
I
I really
still can't tell.
I mean it. I mean it. I have this. Okay, so for the listeners, Jody and I have hung out a lot, and
We have the listeners. My text to Josh was, "We're going to get in a fight on this podcast."
No, I do. I do have a really strong trolling instinct and also a contrarian streak.
It's a very strong.
It's very strong. No, I mean it. I mean, so I said. I mean, I've had a series in my life a few times of deeply transformative experiences engaging with art, and
Yeah.
those experiences have shaped my life, and I really believe that that's an immensely valuable experience, and for you to be able to have that with this painting, I mean, and I have the same.
Poor kid going to Fulton.
Yeah.
And my instructor, God love Miss Waller. She was. I can't. You talking about your college professor? I can't believe how fortunate I was because blue collar family,
Yeah.
all that stuff. But she was one that she was her and her husband were professors at UT. We got to go tour the art and architecture building, and there was this point where there were these 3 rolling hills. We walked outside, and it was just her and I. And she was like, "Here's my art."
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's landscaping. I mow that shit."
Yeah.
And she was like, "No, we did this. This is our art." And I was like, "I don't understand." And she didn't really explain it. But people Piet Mondrian was one of her favorites. So I studied Piet Mondrian and all that. I can't remember what museum I was at. The first time I saw one of those live, I literally had to stop and I was like, I've only experienced this in books. And here I am standing, I think it was in New York or San Francisco. I was like, and I'm getting to see it. It's right here. I can touch it. Like being a poor kid growing up. Like, I can't fucking believe I'm right.
Yeah.
I realize how fortunate I am
Yeah.
to be there in that moment with that painting.
Yeah.
But then I turn to Asad Twombly, I'm like, fuck you. No, I think that's why I sometimes get angry about stuff like that, because I'm like, because I don't have any connection. Richard Prince, I would like to beat the fuck out of him.
Come on.
I hate him so much.
You gotta
And
stop letting these people bother you, Jody.
But it's like, I have. I went to D.C. specifically. This goes into another thing I'm going to talk about. And I know I'm fucking really rambling. The 2 biggest private collections of Norman Rockwell are Steven Spielberg and George Lucas.
Yep.
And they lent them to the Smithsonian in D.C. I literally went there just to see that in person.
Right.
And it was unbelievable.
Yeah. He was so good.
And one of the best pieces that I didn't know the 3 paragraphs, he did a cover for Saturday Evening Post, and it looked like an older man looking at a Pollock painting.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a Pollock painting. He did that.
He painted it.
And
right.
it said on there, Rockwell talked about doing this piece. He's like, that's the hardest piece of art I've ever had to create in my life.
Right.
And the respect I have for Jackson Pollock is unbelievable. It's something like that.
Yeah.
It's immense, innumerable, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But the sidetrack, which stick a pin in it, I'll have to write down or something. I was like, I struggle with a lot of artist friends that if I mention Norman Rockwell or Piet Mondrian or Andrew White, they're like, ugh. No, I only like this one guy that 3 people only know about. And they start going in. I'm like, God damn it. Just, if you need to be cool, just say you need to be cool. Don't do that. Like, yeah.
Are you talking about Joachim?
No comment. There was one night out here. It's like, God damn it, Joachim. He's like, yeah, but look how these squares. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. But he and I got into a really interesting conversation that was very good. The last little one we had out here on digital art versus painted art, because I showed him these two artists I had found recently.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is digital only, and he was like, it's soulless. He didn't say soulless, but he essentially said soulless because there's no paint. But then he did flip and say, if he would just paint this, he could make so much more money. I was like, it's not why he's doing it. He's a young black artist, and he's representing black and darker black skin culture in his paintings, and I love them, but they're digital.
Yeah.
They're digital paintings. And then I showed him a painter that was doing something not in the same style, but in the same vein. And he was like, but they're not technically as good. I was like, they're also like 23. Mm-hmm. Like, give them time, and they will be.
Yeah.
They will be.
Yeah.
Or maybe they won't. Maybe this is what they do. So anyway, I don't know. I've led you down. There are 50 alleyways.
Yeah.
I still think the marketing and PR and all that aspect and the criticism is a thing that people don't acknowledge.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm with you on, for my taste, like, if you have to read a paragraph or many to then the art didn't do its job. Okay. Now, if the art brings you in and then you have that paragraph there, like, to help learn more about it, that's good. But I do, for myself, I mean, I think that an experience of art begins with an arresting sensory experience, meaning it catches your attention in some way, arresting. Yeah. So I don't get into, like, really esoteric academic art, where I have to sort of decode it in order to have any relationship with it. Yeah. I mean, I can look at anything and understand it in terms of form and color and things like that, but I do want to be drawn in. But the problem is, different people are drawn in by different things, just like we like different types of people or food or whatever. And I mean, Jody, one way I want to relieve you of your trouble that you have, maybe perhaps you could appreciate.
Should I lay on the couch, as you're saying?
No, but I mean, part of it is we're in a good situation, which is there's just such an immense plurality of art out there. There's so many different kinds. I mean, we're just awash in art and artistry and aesthetic concerns that, there's just going to be. Sometimes it's like there are some works of art where I'm like, not only does this not do it for me, like, it makes me do it. Like, I'm so not into this that I'm sort of repulsed, by it. So I do have that experience, but I keep that internal, like, part of it is, I noticed for myself, like, I was in the sculpture fields out in Chattanooga a few weeks ago, and there are, like, some really beautiful, immaculate pieces out there. It's a big, it's this big open field with sculpture in it. And then right next to that, what appears to me as a sculptor to be just kind of a dud, and it's just, it like, what I get confused by is that, like, okay, it isn't like, it's clearly not skill or insight or anything that will get a sculpture into this park. There are these other features involved that that has nothing to do with me. Yeah. Meaning, like, I can't compete with that because it's playing an entirely different game than I am. And so, and I'm out here in the world, trying to figure out how to, like, move my work out into the world. And so there's a frustrating quality of, like, there is this kind of, why has this piece succeeded where I have not? And I think that is probably where I find the core of my, like, frustration with it. And I think that if I didn't have that sense of scarcity, I could just be like, well, that's the art for somebody else, and fortunately there's 50 sculptures here, and there's 5 of them that I really like, and I get to see them, and I can fucking climb on them if I want to, because they're way out in the field. This is awesome. Yeah. And so I have to kind of, like, simultaneously utilize that part of me that is intensely judgmental and scrutinizing and assessing, but not let that like overblow everything. You know, I have to like recognize that as a tool that I use sometimes, and I try not to let it, you know, because you know what I'm saying? You kind of like
So for the stuff you don't like, or for whatever reason it doesn't speak to you,
just forget about it.
I was going to say, is that almost something in your brain? It's like, I don't want to occupy 1 ounce of brain effort.
I mean, there's an infinite amount of things in the world to study. Like, look at this house, you know, this room that we're in right now.
Yeah.
There's so many things, and like you have to just kind of choose where you want to put your attention all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm just finding more and more I put like my only, for me, you know, I couldn't teach this, but for me, the only qualifier for art is like, am I curious about it? Mm-hmm. Does it capture me? And if it does, then I'll follow it down. And if it doesn't, I just move on. You know, I can't, there's too much out there. And the other thing is that I'm an artist and I'm not an art historian and I'm not an art critic. And so I have to just look for this food, you know, that feeds me and lights me up and gives me energy and keeps me going and makes me excited and curious and desirable to do things like that or better. And, you know, and Jody, it's a big, crazy world, man.
So I will say, I went on a date with a woman from Hinge, and she's a ceramics person and an art teacher. And we had a very intense, very good conversation about art for an hour. And I talked about some of the things I've talked about, and she's like, well, I just don't think you've studied art history enough. And I will go, I've studied art history since I was in like the 7th grade.
Dude.
Like, and just kept, and she's like, well, I don't know. I think I was probably, to seal the deal on how this didn't work out, she fat shamed me.
Oh.
Yeah. All we talked about was art for an hour, and then the last 15 minutes she said, your lifestyle doesn't really fit my lifestyle. And I was like, what? We've been talking about art for a fucking hour. She was like, you know, you go to bars and you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, we didn't talk about that. And then when I messaged her the next day, I was like, hey, I really had a good time. Because I was making her laugh and all this shit. I was like, but the last 15 minutes were super weird. And she was like, yeah, I just don't think we're a lifestyle match. Obviously, there's a connection. Like, you're really interesting and all this stuff. She's like, but the lifestyle's just not there for me.
Huh.
And I was like, do you mean I'm fat? Like, is that what you're saying? And I sent it to a friend I have a few female friends. I'm like, am I reading this wrong? Can you decode this for me, or am I reading this correctly? And my friend who's dealt with bulimia and anorexia her entire life is like, she's fat shaming you? Fuck her. And just start going off. I was like, okay, thank you.
All right, look.
But art history. You don't understand art history because you don't respect Cy Twombly.
Back to Cy Twombly again.
Do you want me to start? I can't go off on Richard Prince. Like, I will physically get angry.
Don't go off on any of them. Forget about them.
So I think this is why I've tried to explain to Michelle, and she's never understood this. I also came up in graphic design.
Right. It's very technical.
But you also don't copy off of somebody else.
Oh, my God.
You
just said graphic designers don't copy off other people?
Even though they do. But it was always instilled in me to try and do something different or interesting. Even though... So when I see Richard Prince and it's, I just cut out something and blew it up and now it's mine. Or it's the whole Instagram thing really drove me nuts. Because it was other people's art and he blew it up and wrote one word on the bottom. It's like, well, this is supposed to start a discussion. I was like, but you're selling them for $400,000 and not giving a penny to the artist.
Jody.
Hey, listener.
Here's the problem.
Hey, listener, I told you it was going to be a fight.
You're a fundamentalist. You think there's a right way and a wrong way.
I'm also, what's it called? Wildly dichotomist, whatever.
Okay.
I am wildly also a font of dichotomy.
Well, this argument that you're making is fundamentalist. You're saying that there's
that's
a
the Michelle and Kim argument.
Right way and a wrong way.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's an excellent tool for you as an artist right?
Okay.
For you to manage your own practice. But you have to there's a metaphor here, from the New Testament about the church, right? You
Okay.
know, the body has different parts.
Yes.
The hand does this, the head does that,
Yeah.
etc. And so, if you want to have a crazy, wild, tumult of stuff that generates things outward, you need all kinds of weird energies in there.
Okay.
And, of all the roles that artists, I think, can play in society, I think like the cynic and the trickster are roles that we need. And so,
Yeah.
there are those people out there that's their game. They're just turning the mirror back around
Huckster.
on art. And they're hucksters. Absolutely. And like that's, if you don't have that, then you end up with, the academy, and like paintings are white ladies laying down partially clothed.
No, I'm trying to think of what's his name. Thomas Kincaid, painter.
Yeah, you need all those. Well, Thomas Kincaid's a great example of like the weird niches. I mean, he just generated these things of these kind of pleasant scenes with nice colors. And, my grandmother had a Thomas Kincaid blanket hanging up on the wall
Nice.
as a painting in their house.
Okay.
And she loved that painting. It reminded her of going to grandma's when she was a kid.
Yeah.
I say a painting. This was a woven blanket that they hung up on the wall in their trailer.
Hey, man, it had 3 paragraphs next to it.
There's a place for all of it. And I wonder if like, I just, you have so much anxiety about this, and trouble about it.
How about this? The Richard Prince thing, I think, goes back to the whole gatekeeping, 3 paragraphs, criticism thing, because I feel like there's this path that no matter what he does, it's going to be deemed important.
Sure.
Whereas there could be some, I'm going to talk about technical ability. So there could be some, I hate to keep going back to Fulton. There could be some 16-year-old kid at Fulton.
Yeah, he's a total genius.
That is a genius,
right.
that he is making sociological statements and all that. And because he has a single mother.
Right.
He doesn't, but Richard Prince, it's like, your shit is gold.
Right.
I was like, that's the shit I struggle with. I was like, that kid is very good, works really hard, and none of that matters because 3 people laid the path for Richard Prince.
Right.
How about that? Is that a better way to put it?
No, that's again, it's like that's an accurate statement about the nature of the situation. Right. Whether you need to agonize over it, I mean,
only agonize when it's people like you.
Is another question. There's an injustice there, and there's a kind of like a sad quality to that. And there's also this really perplexing question of like, how do people rise up?
Yeah.
And I don't really know. I'm confused by it. I will say that there is that strange tipping point threshold for artists that they sort of become canon. They gain enough clout that it's just they have buy-in from everybody that they need buy-in from, and then everything they do is perceived as clever and high quality. And how you get there, I have absolutely no idea. I'm not trying, but that is a thing that happens.
Do you think for you, is it something that is like you either start on a piece and you're like almost like zoned out and like it hits a point and I'm done, or it's like, here's something inside of me I have to get out? Or do you think there's more thought? And if you did like a breakdown of like, well, 10% of the time it's I have to get it out of me. And I know that's a hard way to balance things, but
so let's see. So I'm in it's funny. It's like, it doesn't matter what scenario in life you're in, you're going to have problems. So I have this great problem, which, I mean, I'm in an unusual situation to where I make my living entirely off of commissioned artworks, right? So those are, and I'm using that loosely. Sometimes this is like pieces of furniture and things like that. That's wonderful and rare. like people give me a down payment, you know, for work that I have not made yet.
That's crazy.
And then I deliver it, and then, you know, I get the rest of the payment.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing spot to be in. And I'm really not a good salesman I don't have marketing or anything. You've seen my web, you know.
I know that's the truth.
You know, so that's a great thing. But the downside to that is those commissions take up almost all of my time and energy, and they get my first energy because I owe that to my clients to deliver excellence to them. And that doesn't leave me as much time to just freely and openly explore the things that I'm like anxious to create.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a weird situation there. I do have this experience though. It's like, let's see. I have moments where I'm attempting a series of, you know, I've got some problem that I'm trying to solve, you know, commissioned a piece or whatever that I'm working on. And I attempt a series of, first drafts.
Yeah.
And then once in a while, something will just catch. And then, I mean, I am on that like a greyhound, you know, and I just can't even, it's really weird. I turn into this really strange version of myself where I'm just like intensely obsessed with getting this thing finished. And like, I don't want, I get irritated by anything in my life that's getting between me and finishing this, continuing, you know, pursuing this piece.
Yeah.
And that's like a really enjoyable and intense experience, but it's not always, that doesn't always happen. But when it does, I mean, those are like really, like this last, that I just installed a piece at a home here in Knoxville last week that I started in July of last year.
Okay.
And, you know, it's a long series of interviews with the client. You know, I when people commission me, I will try to draw some kind of motif like out of their life or their story or whatever to kind of build into the piece. So that, you know, it's a beautiful object, but also it's, you know, there's some symbol or reference into something in there. And like, so it was a long series of interviews with this couple, lots and lots of like drawings and images collected. I did these kind of crazy like light drawings with my body, and I had to figure out how to engineer this like light pen thing that I could, you know, work on. And and then I got in the studio to start building the physical thing. I had like tried something, it was a false start, tried another thing, it was a false start, tried the next thing, and that was like, I am on this. And then, you know, boom, like the gate is open, and the piece that I ended up finishing and completing and delivering to the client, I thought was actually a sketch that I was working on, but it was like partway through a physical sketch, you know, an object sketch. And I was like partway through this project, and I realized, no, like this is the thing. Like I'm taking this, carrying this all the way. So I get like sort of swept up in the process of the work, and I really enjoy that. But yeah, and then there are other times it's, you know how it is, Jody, being a creative, you know, sometimes you're like very confused about what you're doing and how
For
much.
me, it's literally, there are times where my fingers are hovering above the keyboard. I'm staring at the computer going, what the fuck am I going to say about insurance? What am I going to say about insurance? How am I going to write this?
Yeah.
What the fuck so, because I've heard a lot of what you've been talking about in the last little bit is about it. It's been you doing all this. But the work you do.
Yeah.
And please correct me if I'm not saying fabrication. Is that a good term? Manufacture. Like, what would you call...
Well, I do a million things. I mean,
like the piece I saw that was almost like the double conical.
Yeah.
Like
sculpture.
Yeah. So, do you feel like you have to do every step of the process, or are you trying to work to a place? I think of like Wayne White, because I saw a behind the scenes video of when they did the exhibit at the Hunter in Chattanooga, and how many people he had helping construct these massive pieces. So do you think that you need to touch everything like that, or do you feel like there'll come a point where you're like, no, I'll have 2 people working in the shop with me.
Yeah, the hope is to get to where I can bring in some assistants, and there are people that I can, train, and no, it doesn't have to have. I do have like it. It's not that everything has to have my hand on it, but it definitely has to be right to my weird,
specs.
incoherently perfectionist standards. Yes, and so. It's hard. What?
That's why I'm laughing. That piece I showed you and how I said, because that piece...
The painting you wanted to make, you mean? The stripes,
that piece in the matrix that is my brain makes sense.
Yeah.
I can't write 3 paragraphs about it.
You don't have to.
And I don't have the clout of a you or Joachim. Nobody is going to give a shit about that. I am going to create that, and no one will give a shit about it. Dude, I texted you about the World's Fair idea I had for a show. I got no buy-in from my entire illustrators group. And I got nothing. I was like, you know what? This is something I am passionate to a certain level. I don't have it in me to do every single piece in this.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody else gives a shit about it. And I was like, and the problem, because I've had exhibits before, the even worse part is then, this is going to sound very sad or very masturbatorial. Is being at the show and being like, oh, this person didn't show up. Oh, this person doesn't give a shit about my work.
Jody.
This person is not here. And I've tried to get to a point to where I embrace the people that are there and supporting, but I know the people that should be.
The way you get over that is by having a lot of shows.
Yeah. Maybe I think I've had 4 shows.
That's great.
And I would love to do more, but I don't have I'm mentally too fragile to deal with, like, God love them. Dale and Sean don't come to, like, I had a show at the Central Collective.
Well, they're bad people.
Yeah.
Dale Mackey and Sean Pointer are 2 of the worst people I've ever met in my life.
I had a show at the Central Collective, and Dale was there for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Ran to the back to get something and left.
Yeah.
And Sean was there for maybe 5 minutes and even came at the end. And I was just like, guys, could you have just walked around? Like, holy fucking shit. And it's like, and you 2 are people I'm very close with. Yep. And that fucking hurts. Like, so that's why I say, I don't have the people who are coming to my show are my dad and my cookout and concert group that they're like, I don't get any of this shit.
But you can't have a show because you want people to be there. If you want people to come, you have a party.
Yeah.
So shows are different. I will say that was one thing that was useful about graduate school. I mean, I was just constantly doing these little pop-up exhibitions, and nobody gives a fuck. It's like, is there beer there? Oh, you know what I mean? Like,
that was the first show. The hardest lesson I learned was I brought 3 cases of beer, and they were gone in 5 minutes.
Good. Yeah.
I was like, God damn it.
Great. Yeah, it's a great way to get people to come to the show.
I didn't even get a beer.
Yeah. You can't. Man, Jody, you got a head full of snakes, man.
I do.
Wow.
Well, I think I'm always in my head, and this is why I'm good at the SEO shit, because my brain is always running 5,000 miles a minute.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm already seeing all the angles.
God, you're making me feel like I'm just calm and normal and make a lot of sense. I'm used to being the chaotic one.
In the podcast. Click.
Let's see.
Yeah, I know I've pulled a lot of tethers.
No, there's a lot. Yeah. Well, now I'm just seeing myself shift into therapist mode. I'm like, how can I help Jody out with these problems that he has here?
Also, dude, I am 43 years old.
Yeah.
I have had a long time with this.
Yeah, this is just how you are.
No, it's like, if there will be a strong chance I will create that piece, and it'll sit in a bedroom.
Yeah.
And no one will ever see it, because and I'm not saying this to say woe is me. Nobody will give a shit.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, so the wood thing that you almost knocked over in there, that thing is sitting in there in the way because my friend my cousin gave that to me as to use as firewood or something. I looked at it, I was like, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend, Hannah, in Cleveland, Ohio, that I want to take that and I want to spray paint it matte black.
Yeah.
And then she really likes like Notorious B.I.G. and all that. And I want to take gold spray paint and spray paint a crown. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to put to the side, but I want to leave the hinges so she can hang it and the little door knocker and paint it a different color.
Cool.
And do that and hand it to her. When I do that, even though she is 100% Italian and 5 foot tall and could kick the shit out of me, I know she will cry and she will probably not stop hugging me for 30 minutes. That will mean more to her than anything.
Well, that's the heart of it, Jody. I mean, that's what you got to hold on to that kind of drives you forward with things, you know, is like your own connection to the things that you do. I mean, the world, look, I will say this. I was thinking about this on the way over here, and I had a conversation with a close friend yesterday who's from Sacramento. I was raised in a cold weather culture.
Oh, yeah.
All right? And cold weather people are naturally familiar with the bland, mindless, kill you quality of the world. Like in Maine, a lot of the year, the world itself will just incidentally kill you if you don't do something. It's not like it's trying to. It doesn't care. It's just like...
Yeah.
And so I come from this culture where like nothing works. Nothing will go well unless you try really hard. And even then you die at the end, you know? So it's a kind of a fatalistic, like tragic view of things that I was raised in. And so I just expect... like, and you know, I got that like Irish stuff in me too or whatever. I just expect that like things don't work out, and anything that matters to me is something I need to like really cling on to and make it personal to myself.
Yeah.
Like, things don't go well. And so, you know, like whatever that little ember of fire that you hold, you know, close, that like, this is why this is what something means to me, and this is why I continue to do what I do. You got to keep that and give it a little breath every once in a while. Just keep that ember alive. And so I think that's a clarifying experience for you. It's like, well, here I am. I'm doing this thing. I've got this object. I'm interacting with it. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm going to give it to somebody that I love, and they're going to love it in turn. Yeah. And that's like, that's deeply meaningful.
Yeah.
That keeps me going, you know, like the love that I have for these things and the hope that I have that like these little ephemeral experiences of beauty will have some like positive quality out there in the world. That's what keeps me going. The shows, it's like, man, you know, you got to expect to get panned. Dude, here's a great one. I got absolutely shredded by, who's that art critic? Jerry Saltz.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Have you and Joaquin talked about this?
No. He can't.
Because Joaquin has
wife,
ties to Jerry Saltz.
Yeah, and his wife.
I think Sean may even have ties to Jerry Saltz.
Yeah, yeah. They came to UT, you know, they're invited. Yeah. And there may have been... I didn't know who he was. Again, like, I don't pay attention. I'm an artist. I don't really try to, like, stay up on stuff. I just do my art, you know?
That's and a question.
And
in my head.
Yeah, so they came and gosh, what is his wife's name? She's also an art critic. Rose. Anyway, they came through.
Joe Mama.
They came through my first year of graduate school and gave studio tours, and they were just absolutely like, ugh, like, you know, I mean, they just like panned what I'm doing in the studio, and like I was. Me being naive, I was shocked. I thought that like a famous art critic would be some kind of like a philosopher, like a thoughtful, but Jerry Saltz was this kind of like Trump loudmouth like type, and I was just immediately repulsed by them. But I mean, you know, that was my one brush with like famous art world people, and they were like, I mean. They weren't just like, it's not for me. They were like, this is bad, you know? Wow. And that was actually kind of like, you know, I walked out of that and I was like, you know, I am still going to do this.
Okay,
Like,
I was going to ask was that freeing or did that light a fire under you? Or
it
it
lit
just
a fire
floated?
in the part of me that grew up like fist fighting and stuff,
Yeah.
And so when Jerry Sauce is running his mouth, I was like, I'm actually can take you. And so, you know, I had that kind of going.
I hear some comedians talk about that. They talk about moving to L.A. and then one of their friends will visit from Florida, and their friend from Florida's like, "Are we going to take this shit?" And it's like, "No, we don't punch people."
Punch people, yeah. No, it was great. I was like, right, it's like I've just been, just sort of panned by the only, real art people that I've critics or whatever that I've ever encountered. And, I find that has no impact on what I intend to do. And that was kind of an interesting, it was a freeing experience for me. I'm actually kind of grateful for that now.
Look at him. I don't know. There's part of me that looks at him and is like, dude, you're also just some schmuck.
Yeah.
That has, you have tastes. You could lean, it's the Roger Ebert effect. There are like Roger Ebert, somebody once said long ago, said, if a film does what it says it's going to do, he'll give it a lot more credit. Like a Michael Bay film or something. He's like, no, but it's a Michael Bay film.
Yeah, great. There were lots of explosions, and it was got my adrenaline going. And,
I think about that a lot because big film nerd, and I read a shit ton of local critics, music and film, and disagreed with them a lot.
Yeah.
And then read a lot of Roger Ebert, and it was wild because on the TV show, he was that guy.
Yeah.
He was the loudmouth, whatever. Then you read his criticism, and some of it is a little bit of that. I think as he got older, he went more into character. But fuck, man, some of his extended criticism is actually well thought out and stuff. But he also has he could have had a bad day that day. Your guy could have had a bad day that day and made him salty, pun intended.
It doesn't matter, but I mean, it doesn't like...
So that's what I mean is it doesn't matter what almost doesn't matter what he says in that moment.
No. And then, no, it doesn't matter. And also, like, he doesn't remember that experience. It was just, they're like being paid to come to this school and walk through and talk and then give a lecture. And, I mean, actually, I was just thinking about that. And then, that same week, I had that piece set up, it was like an installation, and there was a visiting artist that came through and, said something. She came in and she's a good artist who I liked her work. And she came and she walked around and she just sort of observed this kind of installation. She was like, I can't remember the last time I've said this, but I love this piece. I mean, I love it. And I was just like...
Yeah,
that was like really exciting, really fulfilling and affirming for me, you know, experience. But at the same time, it's like, but I got to have both of those experiences in a week's time, and I was like, right, actually, neither of those experiences are sufficient ground for me to continue on, because I can't do stuff because someone might love it, and I can't not do stuff because someone might hate it.
I shouldn't change course because somebody else hates it.
Yeah, I've got to just do the things that I want to do. And honestly, like, I think a lot of being an artist is, I'm not good at this, but like, the world does not want you, and it doesn't want your stuff. You have to just kind of like, you got to be a little bit bullheaded about it. You got to go out there and like tell the world why this is good. And I don't have that sort of like loud, demanding side to me, but I do have the persistence,
confidence.
Yeah. I don't know if confidence even, but I would say persistence.
Yeah.
I mean, I've given up a lot of good careers that made plenty of money. That aerospace place where I worked when I started school, like the head manager guy, I made this big error at work, and the head manager guy brought me outside to like out into a hallway to talk. This was like a huge multinational corporation. Yeah. Like it's Raytheon now. It was something else before. Okay. Right. And I was like, oh boy. And he's like, well, you know, I said, I made this big mistake. He said, well, you're going to sort it out and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, along your way. And, when you get to where I am, you're going to know that like blah, 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 blah. And I was like kind of looking at him and he's like, yeah, I was like, I don't think I'm going to get to where you are. And he's like, oh, you're going to get there. We're going to make sure you get there. And my little thing was like, I got to get the fuck out of here right now.
See, I had a great piece of advice when I fucked up on a job when I was 23, 24. So we're in a print shop. And I assume like when you print something, you have a bleed around the edge. So when they cut it, if it's off.
Yep.
So I did Friends of the Smokies annual report. I'd come up with this big thing. I was like, I'm going to do it a little bit undersized for a 9x12 envelope. But that way the photos can be bigger and it can have more of an impact. All this thought, all this measuring, all this shit going in. Send it off to get film. Comes back. And the Virginia, who stripped up the film, made the plates. She's like, something's not adding up here. Something's wrong. I was like, okay. And we start figuring out, she's like, you put a bleed down the middle. And we need to bleed around the edge.
Right.
Around the 3. It's like, fuck. Okay. So I had to go talk to the owner of the company. Like, oh, God. Okay, this is what I did. And he was like, okay, call the film people and see what. And I called them and they love me. So they're like, we're going to charge you for the cost of the materials. We're not going to charge you anything else for this. And they redid everything. And I was like, I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get fired. This is thousands of dollars that I just fucked up. And time.
Mm-hmm.
So I take the new film back to Virginia, and she looks at me, and she could tell, because she was like 70-something. She's like, she said something about don't be down. She's like, you screwed up. You did. Are you ever going to do that again? I said, nope. She's like, that's the best lesson you can ever learn. You will never do that again because you will always know the pain you feel right now because you screwed that up.
Right.
I was like, holy fucking shit. Like at 23, I was like, yeah, she's right. And at like 30, I was like, thank God.
Was she right?
Yes.
You never made that same mistake again?
Yeah, thank God she said that.
Yeah.
Thank God she was there. That it wasn't somebody that dude pulled you out and didn't scream at you.
Right.
Like, thank God I had that person there. Thank God you had that person there that didn't make you feel like shit.
Yep.
Like that is a blessing. That is. And I realize I've been saying a word wrong. I said something, I meant hypocrite. I'm the worst hypocrite, not whatever other fucking word.
I don't know what word you said.
I don't know.
I'm fine. I'm not going to,
I know.
check your grammar.
But again, I'm my own worst critic. Here's the question I have.
Okay.
Because you don't follow or truck in that world that much, though, and this is actually a question I got to from Sean, because Sean was like, there's no celebrity I could ever meet that it would ever impact me. And it made me sit there and think about it. I was like, are there celebrities I could meet? And at that time, I was like, oh, there's only one. And now I can think of like 10. 5.
Wait, what
I
do
can
you
think
mean
of 5.
impact you?
If I ever meet Magic Johnson or Kevin Smith, I'm going to walk up to them and say, I'm going to hug you and I'm going to cry because of how much they meant to me.
Right.
Like Magic Johnson as a kid was my hero, and Kevin Smith as an adult is my hero. Like, and I don't like using the term hero, but they both are. And I'm like, I'm just going to hug you and cry because that's what's going to need to happen. Like, and I think of other people like Tom Hanks is a good example. It's like, you've done a lot of good outside of your acting stuff for the world. And I like that and appreciate that. Like, I would have a hard time not going, I need you to know I see it and it means something to me.
Right.
Like, I need to have a moment. I know you want to just shake a hand and walk away, but can I please have a moment? Because this will impact me for the rest of my life. This will be a Tuesday for you.
Yep.
So is there anybody, and it can be musicians or whatever, to where you would honestly be like, I need a moment with you.
I don't know if I would ever say that to somebody, but like so I think for myself it's like maybe the question is like are there people around who I would like to be around who like I would feel awkward or like,
Okay.
like there was
Or
meaning.
if they said something positive about your work, it would hit you more than
Oh
Joe
gosh.
Schmo.
So weirdly, since we're in Knoxville, people are a lot more familiar with this person. But like in my late 20s, I read everything written by Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. When you say Knoxville and written, it's kind
Yeah.
of hard. It's Wilma Dykeman, Cormac McCarthy, Nikki Giovanni.
Yeah, so I think his writing really, really, like, it changed my life.
Okay.
There's a deep, like, he's gnawing on this really same philosophical problem for his whole
Yeah.
career, and the way that I have the same problem, and so the way he's able to grapple with that deeply and realistically has been like a great resource for me. He's also kind of seems like a fatalistic type. So
I would say curmudgeon, too. Because I've read very little interviews and stuff, and he's like, I don't want any of this.
yeah,
Like,
he doesn't do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he lives like last I knew anyway. He lives like at some kind of physics think tank in
Yes.
New Mexico.
I couldn't remember if it was Arizona or New Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah, the Santa Fe Institute.
Yeah. Because he's got 2 new books coming out.
I've heard.
I've already got them pre-ordered.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I really can't wait. Yeah, I think that would probably be. I think I would have a hard time, like, not feeling like I had to be like my best version of myself or whatever.
Yeah.
If I had the opportunity to meet him, for sure. Outside of that, I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling like I've got this part of me that thinks like the only way out of I have a confused part of me that thinks that the only way out of my pain and suffering is to like be like famous or rich or something.
Now who's become the therapist?
No, and so what I mean is when you
Yeah.
talk about like the idea of like meeting famous people, I have this second level thing which is like, nah, don't think about meeting famous people. Like, don't even. It's just a deranging thought.
So I will say I've gotten to a place because the Comic Con I used to go to cover for Visit Knoxville, and musicians like Big Ears and shit, and I always have. That's why I say for the most part, the conversation I always have is, "Hey man, enjoy your work. Thanks for coming to Knoxville. Hope you enjoy your time here." And I walk the fuck away from
Right.
them. Like that's the interaction because part of me loves this town so much. I want them to have at least somebody pointing out to them, thank you for being here. Because, this is still the biggest small town in the world or the smallest big town in the world, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want you to know that people appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times they talk about their own shit about like when I saw Star Wars and I was 3 and I was like, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think about a lot when it comes to celebrity. The only one I actually freaked out a little bit was Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
Because I was doing for the Visit Knoxville and I was filming this little minute-long segment where I cut all these people together. He cut a promo to me and did the whole thing at the end. I went, fuck, 6-year-old Jody would literally shit himself right now to know that Hacksaw Jim Duggan was in front of him and cut a promo to him. And he
Yeah.
shook my hand. He was the nicest. He lives in Nashville with his daughter. Nicest
Nice.
guy in the world. Nicest guy in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it doesn't even have to be a celebrity. It could be an artist or. Yeah.
Actually, you know what? There's somebody that I have to meet. I just I realized this. I don't even know if they're alive, but there is somebody out there that I've got to meet.
Okay.
So
David Harmon.
I use this. I have this. There's this poem that I read years ago that I use, like, for lack of anything else, as like how I describe my practice back to myself.
Okay.
So And I did like a Pechacucha a couple years ago here in town. And I kind of used that same frame of like how
Was that the Bijou?
it was at the Millen Mine. Maybe 2019 or something, 2020.
Surely I was there.
Um,
I can't remember. If I wasn't there, I was out of town.
Yeah.
That would be the only reason I wasn't there.
And like, so I kind of used this frame. So anyway, like the way I look at the pieces, I have this kind of like Venn diagram of these three qualities: wholeness, harmony, clarity.
Okay.
Wholeness is like craft, harmony is like design, clarity is like meaning.
Yeah.
And I got that from this poem, which was describing like a treatise on medieval aesthetics.
Huh.
And I found it weirdly in like this weird. So here's how this went. Actually, I have it.
Yeah.
Somebody I know writes a ton of poems. He had a poem published in this really small publication that I don't even know where it is, but there was like a link to it on his website or something.
Oh, okay.
So I went to the website, and then while I was reading I followed the link, and while I was reading his poem, I came across this other poem. It's short. Can I read it?
Go
Okay,
for it.
okay. So it's by, I don't even know who this person is. I've read this 100 times. The guy's name is Paul J. Sampson.
Funny you should mention that.
You know.
That's not here. Sorry.
All right, so the title of the poem is Midterm Examination, Medieval Aesthetics, St. Thomas Aquinas. Question: name the three aspects of beauty and give three examples of each. Answer: integritas, consonantia, claritas. Wholeness, harmony, clarity. These three are whole: a note of music, an uncaught trout, a single stone. These three are harmonious: the breath of two sleepers, the color of wood and flame, the pull of muscle on bone. And these are clear: bird song over water, light lancing from waves, the edge of the moon.
Huh. What year? Like, do you know?
I probably found this around, let's see, I was living in Georgia or after, so somewhere between 2007 and 2010, 12.
So there's a strong
like to meet
chance he's
this
still
guy.
alive.
Yeah,
Have you ever Googled him? Good Lord.
I should. I really
What
should.
is his name?
Paul J. Sampson. And
Oh my God.
it was published in 1997.
So search Paul J. Sampson.
Yeah.
And the first two things that pop up, the extra.
Yeah.
MD, obituary.
Oh,
Here's Harvard University. Let's see. Losing My Voice, Paul J. Sampson, Eclectica Magazine, Volume 3, Number 4. Paul J. Sampson is heroically a technical writer. Interfering, prefers the kind of writing you can't make a living from. He prefers to do the kind of writing you can't make a living from. Some of his recent poem in the Aesop Review, Two River
View. That's what
Two
it was.
River View.
This was published in.
Best Texas Writing. He lives on the outskirts of a small town east of Dallas, Texas.
Well, I've got to find this guy and meet him.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I just like, yeah, wholeness, harmony, clarity. That's like what I go back to it all the time. That's how I kind of frame understanding, looking at my work and like assessing it and keeping it on track and, doing it the way I want to do it. And
You don't have that hanging up anywhere in your office. Or
wholeness,
in your
harmony,
shop.
clarity.
Yeah,
I write it down, in my notes. I keep a journal, in my studio. And, yeah, I think I need to find that guy. What I really need is a graphic designer who can help me,
I don't know who could do
come
that.
up with some kind of a logo or something that I don't know
That
brings
incorporates
those.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
So did you watch Ted Lasso?
I am of the minority of people who finds it unfunny. I'm sorry.
I don't know that funny is the word.
Okay.
Touching, I think. Is,
Okay.
Yeah. But there's the time during the dark game where he says, there was a Walt Whitman quote that said, "Be curious, not judgmental."
Yes.
Turns out that is not a Walt Whitman quote. But I think about that for "be curious, not judgmental," and I was like, "Fuck!" I feel like I need to put that on something and hang it up somewhere. Because
You need to remind yourself of that when you look at art.
Fuck you.
I'm saying.
Click into podcast.
That's right. I mean, judgmental is a defensive position.
How about here? I'll talk about Andy Warhol.
Okay.
I don't particularly care for Andy Warhol.
Me either.
But I don't have any hate or anger, and he's totally copying.
Yeah.
That's why I said I said dichotomy, and I meant apocryphal. Fuck, now I can't even remember the words. He's totally copying. He's totally just ripping shit off.
Yep.
For some reason, was it water off a duck's back?
Right.
Andy Warhol is to me. But
Yeah.
for some reason, Richard Prince is one that really
Just gets to you.
just gets to me.
Maybe it reminds you of like the rich kids you went to high school with, or like that you didn't go to
Come
high
on now.
school with, that went to the other high
Thank you.
school.
Thank you for self-correcting.
The rich kids you
'cause
saw at the mall.
The rich kids at Fulton were the kids that work at Petro's at the mall and drove an 82 Civic. Those were the rich kids.
Right.
Wait, you got your own car?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
It's a 14-year-old car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, maybe he
I don't know
gets at you
why.
personally.
I think it's maybe when I was in the Guggenheim in New York, like 2007. It was like a big exhibit, and
Yeah.
every time I walked around, it was just more and more, and I'm just sitting there looking at it going, God damn it. Because I also think about that was the analytical part of my brain. I'm in New York for 10 days. It was the first big trip I'd ever taken by myself, ever. I had a very limited amount of time and a lot of shit I wanted to do.
Yep.
And I'm wasting so much time looking at this pile of shit's art
Yeah.
that is literally just... The Marlboro thing is the one that really started me. Where it's like, so these are just Marlboro ads that he just took the photos and blew them up. Am I hearing that? To where I'm almost in there going like, is anybody else seeing this shit?
Oh, yeah. Like one of those where you feel like you're on The Office, like you're
Yeah.
looking for the hidden candid camera
Yeah.
moments. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I relate to that, but we might be at an impasse here because, I mean, this is once again, like, just if you don't like it, ignore it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go to a different museum. There's a lot of great museums.
Rothko. As much as I don't like Rothko,
Yeah.
I don't look at that stuff and go, that
Doesn't
makes-
irritate you?
No.
Hmm.
It just doesn't speak. It doesn't speak to me.
Right.
But it also doesn't... My give a fuck about it is gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's like I passed... Like Damien Hirst is a weird one where I know the name.
Yeah.
I think more than I know... I know 2 or 3 Piss Christ. But I
That's
think...
not Damien Hirst. That's not. That's someone else.
Damien Hirst is not Piss Christ?
Mm-mm.
What is it? He had a big piece, though.
He had the impossibility of death in the mind of the viewer or whatever. It's a different object submerged in water.
I'm wondering... Who was... There were... Piss Christ.
It's like he's like Antonio something.
Oh, God damn it. You're... Well, according to that girl that fat shamed me, I don't, Andrea Serrano.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of a piece by Damien Hirst, but for some reason in my brain, it's Piss Christ.
Okay. Similar
There was
thing.
because there was somebody who came to their work. It was somebody big. Their work was exhibited at UT, and it was literally a pile of shit and blood and everything from an AIDS patient. And like the statement was on, this could kill you. I was like, well, it could still kill you because it's shit. like enough fecal matter can kill you.
Yeah.
But there was a Damien Hirst piece that I saw that it was almost like a coffin or something that I saw in Boston, maybe in Boston, in their museum, because I go to a museum every place I'm at.
Yeah,
I
great.
go and try to see as much art as I can.
Yeah.
As much as some shit makes me angry.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing that and looking at it and going, that's interesting.
Right.
Doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, and walked away. Like, oh, I know that name. Whereas, like, the last time I was in Chicago, the guy who was the curator I think he had passed. Or he was just really old. And the entire lower floor was nothing but his photography collection. And it was great. It was great to see a lot of these. And there was there's an Earl Morris book on essentially examining documentary photography and what it actually means. Mm-hmm. There's a famous piece where it's the Spanish-American War or something, where it's this road and you can see cannonballs all along the road.
Yeah.
Where it turns out that the guy actually placed
the cannonballs there.
What does that change? And, it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know that what I want. I think what I want is somebody to just acknowledge that, yes, sometimes the 3 paragraphs and the inclusion in the Guggenheim is because of marketing, PR, collectors, critics, being the right path to get to that place. Sometimes it's not about the piece of work being good or great or having a social message or any of those boxes it could check.
Yeah, sometimes
it's
people just play the game cleverly and
yes.
Yeah.
And it could be a critic going, I need to find somebody who's up and coming. Let me look this person's up and coming, so I'm going to give all like, people are still human. And I think the struggles I had with, like, Michelle and Kim is they were like, no, that never happens. I was like, you're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, I'd say they're incorrect about that. I mean, it's just patently obvious once you get in the making of things and you develop some skill, whatever field you're in, like, the quality of your work and success are not necessarily tied to each other. Like, there's, you've met a million, like, everybody has, like, some band that they used to see that was really good that just didn't make it, or some musician that they know that's excellent, and, like, and then you turn around and there's just whatever garbage on the radio or whatever, MTV, and it's just there are these industries out there now that have to move product, and sometimes they just they move really bad product, and the art world is definitely an industry, and that's just part of it, man. That's just part of the world, the weird world that we live in.
Okay. This was a good... I actually have 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
But I'll pay you before you leave for the therapy session. I think it's... Yeah, I think it's... This is something that I have not laid dormant, and I've given a lot of voice to it over the years.
Okay.
So I am very stubborn in my... way.
Okay.
I guess is the better way to put it.
All right.
Some things are always going to make me angry.
Yeah.
Going to make me want to throw a shoe.
Yeah.
Because it is that's a good way of putting it about The Office, is there a camera of just being like, why the fuck is this here, man?
Right.
It's like, I want to meet the art critic. I want to meet the 8 people that led to this being here and go, why?
Jody, hold on. Look, this is really, like, again, this is really important stuff. Like,
is this a breakthrough?
No, I mean, I'll talk about my own experience. Like, I've been able to see through the curtain on, like, art selection for different things.
The Walker Evans thing, the real piece versus the copy.
Sure. I mean, I know I wasn't involved in that, obviously.
No, but I mean, that's a good example of what I mean.
Right. Yeah, there's, like, I've been involved in seeing the process of, like, selecting artworks and how it goes through, and it's like, you don't know what's going on behind that curtain. Like, there's someone on the board or whatever that's just like, we really need more red this year.
Red pops.
Yeah. whatever, and that person in that
Yeah.
room just has a certain amount of sway, and then it's like the pieces more red in them get picked for the show. And it really like has, and this person oftentimes has no training at all, or even maybe no particular interest in what's
Yeah.
going on. It's just they're in the room at the time, or they donated to it, or whatever. And I mean, this art selection by committee is crazy. And it's gotten so wild out there now. I mean, in the academic art world, like the way you get into a shows is by having been in other shows, because the criteria for what good art is so utterly vague that the way you choose work is like, well, a bunch of other people have approved of it, so I guess it's good.
The way you work in tech is you've worked in tech.
Right. I mean, that's just how, and so, you know, that's why so much of the work that you see out there is just so banal and like, you know, impenetrable and strange and apparently low quality, etc. It's just like, it's not about, there's no narrative, you know, underlying these things. It's just a weird kind of, it's like there's a strange bureaucracy to it.
Yeah.
That moves these pieces around. And I share in your frustration. I want to say, like, it is really frustrating for me. I've had these sublime experiences with art, and it's really frustrating to like put in a lot of time and effort to go to a museum hoping to have that sublime experience, and instead there's just this something that just is, there's nothing there for you. And that's very frustrating. So I share in that. Like,
okay,
I want it to be better. You know, I think we're doing a bad job of sorting for good art culturally, unfortunately. However, like, I think physical art that I'm making, you know, it's pretty anachronistic. I think a lot of the talent is going to like digital stuff and to production and film, and you know, I mean, there are a lot of like great things being
immersive
done.
like I really kind of want to get up to DC. Laurie Anderson has an exhibit in DC, and I'll also get to see baseball while I'm up there. I had a thought for a second. I was like, I may be the only person, and then I remembered my friends George and Todd. I was like, nope, they would be into that too. I was like, but I watched like a CBS Sunday Morning part on. I was like, fuck, I actually really like Laurie Anderson. I like her music. I was like, I didn't know she was doing this, and she just took a room, painted it completely black, and then just put white paint and did phrases and little pieces of art all over it. And I was like, fuck yes. Because this gets into an argument Hannah and I have all about the immersive Van Gogh and how it's not a good thing because of what they do, like going into, you know, poorer part. And my argument to her is, but that may be some little kid's first experience with art. Same way when I was a kid, comic books were very devalued. They were not, where people would spend $1 million on a Roy Lichtenstein, but they would shit on comic books. It's not art, whereas he just ripped all of that off from Jack Kirby. So it's kind of the same thing. I was like, but I've got these friends from high school that they've never been to the KMA or to McClung. It would never occur to them to take their kids there. But they'll take them to the immersive Van Gogh. And if that sparks something in their 8-year-old kid, then good.
Absolutely.
But I know there is a lot of bad to it. Okay. 2 last questions. Because I'm about to piss myself. So,
just go, man.
Is there anything you would like to see more of in art?
In art?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So actually, I get kind of tired of like cynicism in art, and I get kind of tired of like vagueness. So I like I like to see art that is like earnest and straightforward. I actually had this interesting experience. There's Aeromont, the school. They have an artist in residence program. And a lot of these artists in residence are coming out of undergraduate art programs.
Can I give a little asterisk there? I got invited to Pentaculum. I could not have felt more awkward and out of place because I was the only person in there without a master's.
Didn't have a BFA or no.
And I didn't have any of that, and I was just like, why the fuck am I here?
That's just you, man. Nobody cares. You got invited, you're in.
But
you know?
I wasn't prepared. So I didn't have anything to do anything. They all came with shit to do. I thought we were going to be collaborating and working together. I didn't realize we weren't. Until
Right.
one day I asked one of the people, I was like, can you help me relearn how to screen print? And we spent an entire day relearning how to screen print. And it's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
And yes, none of them gave a shit.
Right.
But I wish I would have had a little bit more of a heads up.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Anyway.
sorry for that.
Well, I had other people that went to it that were like, now that I've gone in other programs, like now that I've been, I know what to do, but I can't come back because it's one and done.
Yeah.
One pentaculum. So anyway, sorry.
So wait. Okay. So I want to see more like earnesty and intent in the work as opposed to like the sort of cynicism and vagueness that seems to be in everything. Because when you're taught in undergraduate art programs, a lot of times is like nothing means anything, and this is all big fucking fake bullshit and whatever.
Oh.
Blah blah blah.
Didn't know
And
that.
The more cynical you are, the cooler you are. That's how it was when I came up, anyway. So Aramont's got this artist in residence program, and I was there this summer, and there's a young guy there, Horacio Casillas, and he's a ceramic artist. And I saw, his work around, and it's a lot of like kind of things shaped or decorated like sort of cathedrals or like churches.
Okay.
And I just immediately was like, okay. I was like, yeah, I could just read the spiel already about, I'm like interrogating the, patriarchal blah, blah, blah of this and that and yada, yada. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm criticizing church somehow.
Yeah.
And I was elated to discover that he's Catholic. And
Yeah.
these are like devotional objects that he makes.
Okay.
Being a Catholic.
Yeah.
And he's trying to like earnestly make beautiful devotional objects. And I was like, right. So he's like, yeah, I'm about something.
Yeah.
I have something that I'm for, that I'm making my art about, which is, in that case, it's like his Catholic faith or whatever. But I just found that so refreshing.
Yeah.
So I would like to see art that is more like for things. I mean, when I was in graduate school, I did a piece and someone was like, oh, okay, so this is about like toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. And I was like, no, I mean, I can see how you read that, but like, that's not how I'm not trying to, this piece isn't necessarily about, politics or contemporary social issues.
Yeah.
And the professor is like, if you're not thinking about it as politics and contemporary issues, then you're not thinking about it right.
Wow.
And
Holy shit.
I couldn't tell if she was saying like that I'm failing, if she was saying that because that's how people are going to read it,
Yeah.
or if she was saying that's the only way to read art. But I think, for a lot of people, unfortunately, like that's the only way to read art. It's just criticizing everything and deconstructing everything
Yeah.
and, et cetera, et cetera. And like this has been done, since the 40s. And it's really important to have an aspect, part of the culture that's criticizing and deconstructing. And that's really, really necessary.
Yeah.
I would like to see more art that is like for things, positively moving towards something.
So positively, not
Yes.
against.
Correct.
Because my friend Jamie Bates Sloan, who was ceramics at Pentaculum with me, she has done these mugs and bowls and stuff that have vaginas on them.
Yeah.
Essentially going, stop like demonizing this.
Stop
This-
demonizing
Not
vaginas.
demonizing is not the right word. Putting it more out in the world of like,
Images of vaginas.
well, it's crafted into the bowls.
Okay.
Like it's actually 3D rendered.
Uh-huh.
And then it got so bad that Instagram started flagging those.
For pornography.
Oh, it got better. So she actually made those pixelated
Right.
bowls and stuff. I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah, that's smart.
I fucking love that. And
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
and the detail she's able to do and stuff. And what the broader statement is, I know she's against the patriarchy. I know
Right,
that,
right.
But I would assume that it is political, and and I showed it to Sean. He was like, "What's her name?" Dale would love that. I was like, "Yeah, yeah." But that I feel like that's more against something, not for something.
That's
right?
okay. I mean, I want
Yeah.
that person to make their art too, and you know what I
Okay.
mean.
Okay.
And I'm not demanding that anyone changes their work, but it's just in terms of like we're in a moment, you know. I just want to be surprised by art. I want to be surprised by people. I like it when people say stuff and I can't guess what they're about to say. I don't
Yeah.
like it when someone starts a sentence and I know exactly how it's going to finish. And so, like, you know, we get caught up in these art. I would like for art to sort of operate outside of being cool.
Okay.
So there's sort of like, you know, we have these trends that emerge.
Yeah.
And these sort of instant topics, and the problem is it's like too many people do the same thing. It starts to get a little bit boring, and I like a nice, like robust, diverse,
I'm only doing this for you. Variety is the spice
Is the spice
of life.
yeah. I like a lot of different stuff interacting, you know. So yeah, there's just a lot of the art out there. It's critical. And I would just like to. I think it's a lot easier to be against something than it is to be for something. So
I'm gonna take this negative for a second.
Go on.
I go back to I would like to see a lot of different creators' voices, being instead of like, all right, we've got these 5 pieces of art, and the 5 artists are going to come out. Let's see. He's going to be wearing a toboggan, even though it's 150 degrees, you know, and it's just like the standard white people bullshit.
Huh.
I was like, I would, and they're going to bullshit for 3. I'm going to keep sticking with the 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
For 3 paragraphs about what this one stroke of red in the middle
Yeah.
is saying about their relationship with their father. Whereas I'm looking at this digital art, this young man.
All right. Well, you're saying what you don't want. So
Yeah.
tell me what you want. You ask me what you want.
I
What do you
know. I want to see
more.
more varied creators. You're saying
yeah.
more varied art. I'm saying
Yeah.
I would like to see more varied creators.
Yeah.
I would like to see places like, even though they shouldn't matter, how about we put it that way, MoMA, Guggenheim, those, giving younger artists like that.
Yeah.
Again, that goes back to the gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I'd like that too.
Okay. See, that's somewhat positive. I had to slam one person to.
The guy wearing the toboggan in the summer.
Damn it. It bothers me so much. You should know this. I wear shorts in the fucking wintertime. Come on. Okay. Do you know what you would like to do like 10 years from now or in the next 10 years?
Oh, I'd like to do exactly what I'm doing, but more and better.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in
But
my
are there
zone.
any lanes that you're like, I would like to eventually, I can't right now, but I would eventually like to explore this more?
I mean, my dream scenario is to have more and more resources available to me,
Okay.
so that I can, continue. It's like I'm in a shop right now that works in a lot of wood and metal.
Yeah.
And those are kind of the things that are most readily available to me. And so like the stuff that I'm doing, has to kind of pass through the gate of like what's available to me.
Yeah.
So I'd like to be able to continue to build out a more and more diverse studio. I would
Okay.
really, really love to bring in some young people to like train, to work. Because
Yeah.
people took me under their wing a bunch of times in my
Yeah.
life, and I learned so much from that experience. And I really was eager to learn, and that really helped me to grow immensely. And I love to give that experience to other people. I want to teach more.
Okay.
I was at Aramont last summer. That was an amazing experience. I'm actually I'm trying to hire one of my students out of that class from last summer.
Okay.
But I don't quite have the bandwidth.
Do you see collaboration anywhere on that list?
I collaborate regularly.
Okay.
Someone told me once that artists shouldn't collaborate.
Really?
Which I thought was kind of like, well, sometimes, you have to just say something provocative just to get attention.
Oh,
so
yeah.
There are people like
That
that.
person was probably wearing a toboggan even though it was 100 degrees outside.
I don't think I
Just
collaborate
let me
all the
believe
time.
in it, man.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. I collaborate all the time. I mean, right now, Boppo, the studio, I mean, I do all kinds of things. Like last year, I spent a good portion of my time as like an artistic director, contracted to another company here in town where I help develop out some projects. I'll be doing that again this coming year.
Okay.
And that's great, working on a team. I really enjoy that. I learn a lot.
Yeah.
What I need, Jody, is to people out there in the world to know that I'm here. That's really important.
Well, you need to get that Bailey grant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hire some. What was it? You need the graphic designer to do the logo that said your trifecta.
Yeah.
Your poetry trifecta.
Yeah, I do. I mean, this isn't something that I want. It's just something I need. But yeah. I mean, marketing right now. So I have work in Pivot Point Gallery here in Knoxville, and also Aramont's new gallery downtown.
Where's Pivot Point?
It's in Emery Place. It's brand new. Just opened
Aren't
last
there
month.
two?
There's another one, there as well. So I am trying to find representation. I just need avenues out there in the world where, it's somebody else's job to sell it. It's my job to make it.
Okay.
That's something that I'm really excited about. So finding whoever that is out there, an agent, interior designers, galleries, whatever. I really have got to get those avenues sorted out. I have many lifetimes worth of work that I wish to make.
Okay.
And so I need to spend more and more of my time making it and less of my time selling it and worrying about other things.
Do you have an idea box of sketches somewhere?
Yeah. I have infinite lists and drawing pads and everything else. What, are you going to pee right now?
I have to pee very bad, so I'm going to say goodbye.
Okay.
Is there anything else you think, are there loose threads that we need to?
A million, yeah, but I think it's time. I think it's all right that we wrap it up.
Okay. This is the most awkward ending ever. Thank you for being on.
Thanks, Jody.
Thank you for the therapy session.
Okay.